Hello, guys. I hope every one of you is doing fine and is keeping well. I have just started out with different news articles, as you may have noticed from yesterday. But the thing is, I was doing it earlier also. I was doing it before I started making the shots. So I have kind of tried to modify what I was doing so far, and this is something that I want to kind of give out more information and help you with your latest updates, let's say daily updates. So that is what my aim has been. And many of my subscribers have said that please start again with news, and we want news from various sources, we want news from different places and all of that. So I decided to start off with news little by little and see where it goes. So today I will try with some news from Africa. People had asked me to start off with news from Africa, and for today I do have news from the African continent. So let's see what has been happening for the past couple of days in Africa. Okay, let me just start off with some news. Okay, the first piece of news that we have is Nigeria's oil regulator considers revoking unused exploration leases. Nigeria's oil regulator is considering revoking unused oil exploration leases that companies were granted but have not been able to carry out any exploration activities, the head of the agency said on Monday. Latest data from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum and Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) showed that over 60% of the prospecting licenses issued to local and foreign oil firms had expired at a time when the country is seeking new investment to boost production. The Nigerian government issued 53 exploration leases, some dating back to 2003 to oil companies, but 33 have since expired and not renewed, including 4 which are bogged down by contract disputes. The leases have not been automatically revoked, but the regulator is no longer willing to let the companies hold on to leases indefinitely. Nigeria, Africa's biggest oil producer, has seen a decline in oil production due to crude theft, pipeline vandalism, and lack of new investment in the sector. This is the first piece of information that we have, the first news that we have from Africa for today. Let's go on to second news. Botswana to extend and expand fresh produce import restrictions. Botswana on Monday said it would extend and expand restrictions on imports of some fresh produce as it tries to become self-sufficient in food and cut its import bill. The ban on imports of tomatoes, potatoes, onions, and other produce, which has angered farmers in neighboring South Africa and was due to expire at the end of December, would now run until the end of 2025. The agriculture minister said the number of restricted items would also double to 32 from July next year. The ministry has added the wait until July would act as a grace period to give Botswana's farmers some time to plant so that local produce can be ready. The drought prone country's agricultural sector is relatively small, accounting for about 5% of economic output, with local farmers squeezed by cheaper imports from South Africa. That is a very important news from Botswana. Next, Zambia digs for at least 25 miners buried in open pit mudslide. Rescue workers in Zambia were still searching on Monday for at least 25 informal miners buried alive 3 days ago by a mudslide at an open pit copper mine. Mines Ministry has revealed. The miners at Cecily Mine in Chingola, about 400 kilometers northwest of the capital Lusaka, were trapped in three places and heavy rains had flooded the pit, the government has said. It was not immediately clear how many miners were trapped, but Kabuswe said 25 families had so far come forward to claim missing relatives who were working at the mine when the accident happened. So they are trying to pull out more people, and rescue work is going on, but due to a lot of rain, a lot of flooding, they are unable to go on with the rescue work, but are still going on. They are still trying. Next. Kenyan court suspends plan to privatize more state-owned firms. A Kenyan court on Monday suspended a government plan to start a fresh privatization drive under a modified law, while it hears a challenge that an opposition party has brought against the sales. In late November, the Finance Ministry said it would start the process of offering to sell its shareholding in 11 firms, including an oil pipeline, a textbook publisher, and agri-business firms. The 11 companies are among more than 35 companies that are lined up for sale, partly to help the government raise revenue in the face of growing debt repayments. Next. Canada First Quantum agrees with Zambian firm to fast-track copper project. Canada's First Quantum Minerals and a Zambian mining company have signed an agreement to fast-track the development of a copper project in Africa's second biggest producer of the metal, the company said on Monday. Zambia has ambitions to triple its copper output and has reviewed its tax policy to increase mining exploration and output. First Quantum is already a major miner in the southern African country. This is a very important piece of news that we have. Okay. Now the next piece of news. Africa's hydropower plants set for upgrades to boost generation. The African Development Bank is drawing up plans for 1 billion of upgrades to a dozen hydropower plants in Africa, bank officials have revealed on Monday, boosting capacity that is often unable to meet the continent's surging power needs, ranging from Nigeria's largest 760 megawatt Kanji plant to South Africa's 2.7 megawatt Seoul plant. The refurbishments are expected to yield an extra 570 megawatt across the 12 projects. Work on the first plant is expected to start by June next year. So that is another important piece of news that we have, and I have got a lot of requests to give out news, give out updates from various continents, from various countries, and Africa is one of them. So I decided to start with it, and let's see how things go. You guys also tell me what you want to see and how you would want to uh, know more updates, know more of everyday news so that I can give it to you. Right now, I am reading out the news articles for Africa. Next, South Africa's Aspen expands further into Asia with Sandoz China deal. South Africa's Aspen expands further into Asia with Sandoz China deal. Aspen Pharmacare is expanding further into China to a deal to buy the Chinese business of, I'm sorry, I'll read that again. Okay. South Africa's Aspen expands further into Asia with Sandoz China deal. Aspen Pharmacare is expanding further into China through a deal to buy the Chinese business of Swiss group Sandoz for up to 92.6 million euros, the South African company said on Monday. As part of the deal, Aspen Global Incorporated, a subsidiary of Aspen, will also buy the selling and intellectual property rights of a portfolio of established products that include Sandostatin, Aclasta, and Voriconazole. Okay, next. South Africa likely to produce first EV in 2026. South Africa's automotive industry will likely produce its first EV in 2026, the trade minister said on Monday as he outlined plans for the country's green transport transition. The electrification of transport is one of the key pillars underpinning South Africa's just energy transition plan for a low carbon and climate resilient economy. Most of the countries are now switching over to EVs. The process is lengthy, it's not very smooth, but gradually we will have to move over to EVs for a safer environment, for a safer future. So South Africa has said that by 2026 they will be able to produce more of EVs. Okay, the next news. Tanzania signs major carbon credit deal covering national parks. Tanzania has signed a deal for one of East Africa's biggest land-based carbon credit projects. The project covers 6 national parks spanning 1.8 million hectares. Tanzania, which has forest resources of nearly 48 million hectares, has emerged as one of leading African players in the global economy, in the global carbon credit trade. It comes as world leaders are in Dubai for the COP28 summit aimed at funding ways to tackle climate change. So that's a major step taken by Tanzania, and in the near future these things are going to help. Such big developments taken by countries are going to help not just their country but the entire world, where we can not only save the environment but also we can save our resources, we can save mankind, we can save people, because if the environment gets polluted further from this point, from where we are today, and if it goes on getting polluted day after day, years after years, it will be very difficult for humans to live in this planet. Everyone is aware of this fact, right? So every country, every individual has to take a step forward to do their own bit to save the environment. We as individuals might not be able to contribute in a very big way to save the environment, but just imagine if each one of us, if each one of us does their own share, does their own bit to save the environment, this planet Earth can be saved, and in the near future it would be a much livable place. So these are very good initiatives that are being taken by various countries, which will help in saving the environment. And it's not just the bigger economies that are expected to take huge steps, not just the super rich countries who have to take proper steps to save the environment, has to move ahead with removal of all these toxic environment and save the earth. But other countries, all the countries have to move ahead to save the environment. And now we can see that many countries are joining their neighbors, are joining other countries in saving the environment. This is how we will be able to save the planet, and we will be able to then move ahead in a new era. Okay, let's go on to the next piece of news. Uganda is planning to more than double its level of domestic market borrowing to 6.8 trillion Ugandan shillings in the 2023-2024 financial year to help finance new spending needs, the Ministry of Finance has said. Government finances have been squeezed since the World Bank, traditionally a key source of cheap credit for the country, cut lending earlier this year to protest against the enactment of one of the world's strictest anti-homosexuality laws. This is another important piece of news that has come from Africa, and it is from the country of Uganda. So we can see a country like Africa, which has faced a lot of adversity, and this year being a very bad year for Africa, is also moving ahead with challenging measures. They are doing their bit in spite of all that has happened this year. African countries are doing a lot more than they actually can, in spite of political instability, environmental hazards, environmental challenges. These countries are moving ahead with big measures and are doing their own bit. Let's go move on to the next article. This article is now regarding South Africa. Okay, so what is the news that we have from South Africa today? Let's see. South Africa's Q3 GDP falls 0.2% quarter to quarter, more than what was predicted. In the third quarter of 2023, seasonally adjusted terms has fallen to 0.2% as compared to revised growth of 0.5% in the previous quarter. A presentation by Statistics South Africa showed the sharpest falls in output were in agriculture, construction, manufacturing and mining. In unadjusted year-on-year terms, GDP contracted 0.7 in the third quarter. So, South Africa's economy has contracted by 0.2% in the third quarter. We know this year hasn't been one of the greatest years for Africa, where we have witnessed a lot of instability this year. Africa, which is otherwise a very peaceful continent, has seen a lot of political insurgencies this year, a lot of instability, a lot of death, floods this year. So, this is not one of the best years that they have witnessed. However, it is really commendable how the countries are coming up with their challenges. They are accepting the challenges and they are moving ahead with more than what they can do. South Africa's economy might have contracted a bit, but in the next year they are sure to get back to where they were and move ahead. So let's see the next news. Kenya private sector activity contracts for third month in November as business struggled with soaring cost. Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index fell to 45.8% last month from 46.2 in October. Readings above 50 signal growth in business activity, while those below a point to a contraction. The performance of Kenya's private sector started to decline in September, and the latest monthly reading is one of the weakest since the series began almost a decade ago. The last piece of news that we have right now from Africa: Niger revokes military accord with European Union. Niger's ruling junta has revoked the country's military partnership with the European Union, the foreign ministry said, withdrawing its permission for an EU program set up to bolster the security forces. The EUCAP Sahel Niger Civilian Mission was launched in 2012 to help the security forces fight militants and other threats. Around 120 Europeans are permanently deployed there, according to its website. Okay, yeah, so I'm just talking about this year, not about what Africa has been through for all the last years and all that, but in general, what I said. So, these are some of the news articles that are from Africa, and if you have requests or suggestions for what else you want to see, what else I should prepare for you, what kind of videos, what kind of live presentations you want to see, just let me know and I will work on them. And also let me know how you feel about the kind of articles, the kind of updates that I present to you, so that it would be a good time for me, it would be a good advice, it would be something good. Feedback, a good feedback is always required. So if you tell me what you like to see, I would definitely work on it. Thanks for now. Anything you want to ask? Okay, I guess I will be back with some more news in some time. Okay.